trouble I wish wasn't there. I've asked 1,000 ways for you to take my pain away. You to take my pain away. I am trying to understand.
What's up, everybody? From a Sunday fun day here at North Parkford Baptist Church.
Right, hello. Boys playing video games. Hello.
Hey, we're going to head up. We're going to be quiet going in. We're going to stand along the back. But we are not going to be quiet when Colton gets baptized.
All right, so today is a special day. Normally we don't do this, but today we're actually heading up into service area because we have a couple of our guys, not just one, that are going to get baptized today, which is an awesome decision that they're making. I brought my GoPro, so I'm going to stick it in the water, see if they'll let me record in the water.
I never leave your hands. When you walked upon the earth, you healed the broken, lost and hurt. I know you hate to see me cry. One day you will set all things right. Yeah, one day you will set all things right. When my world is shaking, heaven stands. When my heart is breaking, I never leave your hands. Your hands. Your hands that shape the world are holding me. They hold me still. Your hands that shape the world are holding
Not to see, good to see.
They
But
hold me
I know
still.
most of you know me. If you don't, in the great words of Josh Lovett, get to know me. So for announcements today, we have Colton just got baptized, so let's celebrate that. That was amazing. So proud. And Ethan. I didn't know Ethan was getting baptized until he was up there. Welcome to floor 1. You are all invited to the video scavenger hunt on March 13th through the 15th. Do we have a slide? No. That's the slide. There we go. Now, you stand up, find as many people as you can, give them a high five, give them a hug.
I got you.
All right, how's everybody doing?
Great.
Good.
Great.
Oh, come on, we try that again. Hey, how's everybody doing? Great. Hey, how about those baptisms, huh? Man, isn't that a cool thing to see somebody's life change and then walk through all that with them? That's like what family's supposed to be about, right? That's so cool. All right, so I get on these things that my wife calls kicks, okay? And what a kick is when Adam gets obsessed with something for 2 weeks. All right, so this is what happens. I will get obsessed with something for 2 weeks, and I will research it, and I'll talk about it, and I'll think it, and then I'll try it, and then I realize I'm horrible at it, and I quit it, okay? So this is just for as long as we've been together. I don't know how many kicks I have been through in my life. Well, several years ago, I thought I should try boxing. You can laugh. It's okay. Go ahead. Laugh. It's hilarious. Yes. I don't know why I thought I could try boxing. I thought, you know what looks like fun? Boxing. You know what'd be great? Someone punch me in the face. That would be great. I think I should try boxing. So I did all this research on it. I bought a book about boxing. I talked about boxing forever, and then I finally did it. I made the call. I found somebody in town that trained, and there's this guy who had a gym attached to the back of his house. His name was Leo. It's like this old Italian guy. He talks like the trainer from Rocky. You can't even understand it. He's like, so I called him, and I don't even know what I was agreeing to. I just, at some point, heard him say, yeah, come on down. So I come down for my first boxing training session. And so I walk in, and there's this girl named Roxanne. She's a boxer. She's really good. She's boxing, and I'm watching her box. And like, this is this makeshift gym, and she's going crazy. And like the whole time, he's like, "This is what you're going to be doing." And so I was like, "Oh my goodness, this looks kind of scary. I don't know what I'm doing, but hey, I'm here. I made the commitment." So he's like, "All right, here's the deal. Here's how it's going to work. You come in, try it out for a couple weeks, and then we'll go." So I went on my first day, and Leo just yelled at me the whole time. He just kept telling me how I didn't know what I was doing. I'd try something, he'd be like, "No, no, no," and then I would like fix it. I'm like, "Oh, here it is." He's, "No, it's even worse." And like it was just like he just yelled at me for the whole time. And then I went a second time, and then he yelled at me even more. Like he just kept. I think he even called me stupid a couple times. It was just this really. So then I called Leo up and I was like, "Leo, I hate to do this, but I don't think boxing is my thing." And he's like, "Well," I couldn't really understand what he's saying because he's talking like this. He's like, "Well, I was just getting ready to call you to tell you boxing is definitely not your thing. And you should not come back to the gym." He says, "I'm not even going to charge you for the 2 times you came." He's like, "Just don't come back." And so I learned something that I learn every time I get on a kick, is that sometimes some things are easy until you actually do them. They're easy until you actually do them. You ever do that before? You ever think, "I can do that. That's easy. Like I could so do that," and then you do it, and you're like, "Wow, I really suck at this thing," and it's just this awful feeling. And so some things are easier until you actually do them. And so today we're wrapping up our series on Storyteller, and today we're going to talk about one last subject, something that I think all of us would agree is really easy until you actually do it, and that is forgiveness. We're going to talk about forgiveness today. So our story picks up in Matthew, and Peter approaches Jesus and he says this: "How many times do I have to forgive my fellow believer who keeps offending me? How many times do I got to forgive somebody that keeps hurting me? Is it 7 times, Jesus?" And Jesus says, "Not 7 times, but 70 times 7 times. That's how much you should forgive somebody." And then Jesus says, "The lessons of forgiveness in heaven's kingdom can be illustrated in this." And he tells a story. So I'm going to just tell the story for time's sake instead of reading it. But here's the story. There's this king, and this king had a lot of servants, and he had a lot of money, and he loaned out a bunch of money to those servants. And then all of a sudden the king decided, "You know what? I'm going to collect on this money." And so he starts to collect the debt. Well, one of his servants owed like $1 million. I mean, that sounds like a crazy extreme, but when you actually take the money that Jesus says and you translate it into our currency, it's about $1 million. This guy owed the king $1 million. And so the king said, "I want my money." And so the king brought the guy in. He said, "Give me my $1 million." The guy's like, "I don't have $1 million. This is crazy." He goes, "Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to throw you in jail, and then your family's going to pay the debt. When they pay the debt, we'll take you out." So the man falls at the king's knees, and he begs and pleads for mercy. He says, "I've got a family to take care of. I've got people that I'm responsible for. You can't put me in jail. Please help me out. Please work with me." And the man, the king, is filled with such mercy and grace. He looks at the man and he says, "I will forgive your debt. Your debt's forgiven. $1 million gone. Just go." Unbelievable. So then this man who's been forgiven $1 million, he goes out. Now he's got people he's responsible for. He's got some people that owe him money. So this man walks up to one of his servants who owes him about $20,000. He says, "I need my money." And the guy's like, "I don't have $20,000. That's a lot of money." He's like, "Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take you, we're going to beat you, we're going to throw you in prison, and we're going to torture you until your family pays the debt." And the man begs him, "Please, you can't do that." And this guy, who was forgiven $1 million, won't forgive $20,000, throws him in jail. Well, a bunch of people hear what's going on, and they go to the king, and they say, "Hey, you know that guy you forgave for $1 million? He won't forgive for $20,000. So the king approaches this guy, and we pick up the story in verse 32. It says, "The king said to him, 'You scoundrel, is this the way you respond to my mercy? Because you begged me, I forgave you the massive debt that you owed me. Why didn't you show the same mercy to your fellow servant that I showed to you?' In a fury of anger, the king turned him over to the prison guards to be tortured until all his debt was repaid. In this same way," here's the important part of the story, because every time Jesus tells a story, there's an important part. Here it is. "In this same way, my heavenly Father will deal with any of you if you do not release forgiveness from your heart toward your fellow believer." So here's the thing. Forgiveness is easy until you actually have to do it. Forgiveness is easy until you actually have to do it. Now, I think all of us understand forgiveness. Okay, like live long enough and you're going to say you're sorry and you're going to ask forgiveness for something, whether it's something small or something big. I think we understand what forgiveness means. Forgiveness means we let something go. Forgiveness means we don't hold a grudge. Forgiveness means we let a debt be canceled. Forgiveness means we move on. Like, we understand forgiveness, but just because you understand how it works, it doesn't mean it's not any less easy. So the reason why I want to talk about forgiveness today, and I want to try to do this quick because I want to get you guys to your groups to have some discussion about this. The reason why forgiveness is so important is this. If you cannot figure out how to forgive people, you're going to end up like this guy. Now, when I say end up like this guy, I'm not meaning if there's people you don't forgive, someone's going to come and break into your house in the middle of the night, beat you down, torture you, and throw you in prison. That's not literally going to happen. But here's what is, I don't know, maybe for some of you, I don't know, maybe some of you guys are really shady, you're just some dark stuff, and someone's like busting in, like, hey, come on, let's go. I was like, where'd Tommy go? I don't know, never seen him again. He just, I don't know, it's weird. It's not actually what's going to happen. What Jesus is saying is this. If you choose not to forgive somebody, you are building a prison for yourself that you're going to live in and be miserable in and be tortured in. And the only person you have to blame for all of that pain is you. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but let me tell you something about forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about the people that hurt you. That's all forgiveness is about. Now, some of you are like, what? Isn't that kind of what forgiveness is about? Like, if I'm going to forgive somebody, I'm forgiving somebody that hurt me. No, listen. Forgiveness is not about the people that hurt you. Forgiveness is about you. It's about you. Because I want you to know something. You may forgive somebody and they may never change. You may forgive somebody and they may never feel sorry for what they did to you. As a matter of fact, there will be people you will forgive, and when you walk up to them and you say, listen, I forgive you, and they don't even know what you're talking about. Forgiveness is not about the people that hurt you. Forgiveness is about you, because when you choose not to forgive somebody, what you're doing is this. You are building a prison for your mind and a prison for your heart that you are going to live in, and you're going to torture yourself in it, and you're going to feel pain in it. I mean, how many of us today, don't raise your hand, but I guarantee you there's people in this room, to be honest, say, listen, I'm struggling with forgiveness. I've been hurt by some people, maybe even some people this week, and it is just eating me up inside, and I cannot sleep, I can't think, I can't trust anybody, I can't move on because I can't get over what so-and-so did. And the truth is, whoever that person is and whatever they did to you, most likely they've forgotten about it and they've moved on. And so this is where forgiveness gets jacked up, and this is why it gets so hard, because when we seek for forgiveness, what we really want is for people to pay for what they did for us. That's what we really want. Right? We don't really want forgiveness. We don't really want peace. We want people to feel bad for what they did to us, to get what they got done to us. And that's just not how it works. Forgiveness isn't about the other person. Forgiveness is about you. And so, I don't know how to tell you if you know you've forgiven somebody or not, but I think the best way to really try to understand it is the way I've heard it. You know you've forgiven somebody when you feel free. When whatever they did and whoever they aren't living inside your mind and living inside your heart and jacking you up, that's when you know you're forgiven, because you're free. Because you've realized that it's not about what they did. It's about me moving on and being who I need to be. I mean, that's the whole point of the story. The whole point of the story is to not focus on what has been done to you. Because let's just be honest, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be done to you in your life. You live long enough, you're going to get some scars. A matter of fact, if you love people hard enough and you choose to be somebody that loves Jesus and acts like Jesus, a lot of people are going to hurt you. So if you're looking to try to get through life without somebody hurting you or doing something to you, man, good luck. Because it's just not going to happen. This story is not about focusing on what has happened to you. The story is about focusing on what has been done for you. You know the reason why the king went so crazy and beat this guy up and threw him back in prison? Because he forgot what was given to him. The man was forgiven $1 million debt. But yet he was petty over a $20,000 offense. Man, I just wonder how many of us are in the room today and you've been forgiven $1 million debt, but you can't get over a $20,000 offense somebody did to you. God has set you free and forgiven you and allowed you to live a life that is blessed. But man, you can't seem to think straight. You can't seem to trust people. You can't seem to get over yourself because somebody somewhere did something that messed you up and you're holding on to it. We got to be reminded today of our $1 million debt just for a second. Okay, so Romans 5, Paul says this, "For when the time was right, the anointed one Jesus came and he died to demonstrate his love for sinners who were entirely helpless, weak, and powerless to save themselves." Let's just be real. We're all a little jacked up today. Some of us maybe a little more than others. Like, nobody knows you but you and God, right? There's only two people that know you completely. You and God. Even if you don't have a relationship with God, doesn't change the fact that God knows you. And if we had a little bit of a video of your life that we could put on YouTube, and we could show the behind the scenes, chances are you'd give anything for that not to be put out. Listen, we just got stuff that we do that we're not proud of and not happy with. And if we're honest, we've got a couple $1 million offenses in our life. I don't know what your bank account looks like, what the negative number is of the offenses. Some of you don't feel like it's a lot. I can tell you this, I've lived long enough to know I make a lot of mistakes. And I've done a lot of really stupid things. And I've done a lot of really stupid things after being saved. Like, I don't know, I think that's got to be worse in my mind. Like, it's not the stuff I did before Jesus, but it's the stuff I did after Jesus. It's the stuff I've done knowing that Jesus saved me and gave his life for me, and I just choose to be stupid. Like, I got a lot of that in me. That's just me talking about me. And so, what Paul's saying is, listen, Jesus died for you at your worst. And then it says, now, who of us would dare die for the sake of a wicked person? We can all understand if someone was willing to die for truly a noble person. I mean, I think we get that, right? Like we would die for a good person. I don't know how many of us would die for a bad person. But Jesus, it says in verse 8, "But Christ proved God's passionate love for us by dying in our place while we were still lost and ungodly." I'm not saying that to discourage you today. I'm saying that to say, listen, you've made some $1 million mistakes. And Jesus loved you enough to forgive you for those mistakes. And he'll keep forgiving you for those mistakes because his forgiveness is everlasting over you. But some of y'all can't get past the $20,000 thing that somebody did to you. And here's the thing we got to understand. Listen, man, we have given God every single excuse to not love us. And you know God's never taken one of them. Isn't that crazy? I don't know about you, but I can just speak for me. I've given God 1,000 excuses, more than 1,000 excuses to not love me anymore. And he's never taken one of those excuses when he could have. He never has. And that's what I'm hoping happens today. I hope that our eyes are open to the fact that we've made some mistakes. And there's a God that loved us and forgave us. And maybe if we can be honest with our mistakes, we can be honest with each other's mistakes and realize if I've done some things wrong, other people have done some things wrong. If I've had some bad days, other people have had some bad days. Chances are most of the people that have messed you up are people that don't have what you have. They don't have the love of your family. They don't have the love of your church family. Maybe they don't have a place like Floor One they can be a part of to hear about Jesus and to go to these things and be a part of the things that we're a part of. And maybe if we can be honest with ourselves, we can start being honest with some other people. And so I say all this today to say this. We should be the kind of people that forgive like we're forgiven. You should be the kind of person that forgives in the way that you have been forgiven. In the way that God has forgiven you, you should forgive other people. Because it's not about the other people. Okay, get that out of your head. Forgiveness is not about other people. It's about you and it's about God. I'm going to forgive people not because of other people, because it doesn't matter what they think and it doesn't matter what they do. I'm going to forgive because God forgave me. And God loved me enough to save me despite how many times I mess things up. So I'm going to choose to forgive the way that I have been forgiven. Because listen, your ability to forgive people is directly connected to your ability to receive forgiveness from God. Your ability to forgive people is directly connected to your ability to receive forgiveness from God. And what you need to receive forgiveness from God and what you need to give forgiveness to other people are connected. You know what I think the real issue with a lot of us is? I think our real issue today isn't people that have hurt us. I think the real issue is us. I think the reason why we struggle with forgiveness is because some of us in this room can't forgive ourselves. And you've been to some places, and you've seen some things, and you've done some things, and you've said some things, and you can't get over the pain you've caused yourself, and the pain you've caused other people, and the pain you've caused God. And so what happens is we sit in it, and we build this prison, and we live in it, and we torture ourselves, and we hurt ourselves, and we can't get past where we are because we've made forgiveness about everything else. That's not the way God wants you to live. I want you to know, if nothing else in these last 2 minutes, this. You are forgiven. God doesn't hold anything against you. The God of the universe who created you sent his son to give his life for you, and he doesn't hold anything against you. That's crazy. Paul would say it way better than what I could ever say. In Romans 8, he says this, "So now I live with the confidence that there is nothing in the universe with the power to separate us from God's love. I'm convinced that his love will triumph over death, life's troubles, fallen angels, or dark rulers in the heavens. There is nothing in our present and future circumstance that can weaken his love. There is no power above us or beneath us, no power that could ever be found in the universe that can distance us from God's passionate love, which is lavished upon us through our Lord Jesus, the Anointed One." Man. Listen, I know this message isn't for everybody today, but this message is for somebody. And if that's you, I just want you to look at me. I can't even see you. These lights are so bright. I don't even know if you're looking at me anyway. But listen, I want you to look at me. I want you to hear this from me. No, don't turn them down because it'll be awkward. Then I want to see them in the face. Keep them up. I don't want to look at them because it'll be weird. Go, "Oh, he saw me." Okay, like listen, just look at me. Look at me. I need you to know something. God has let this thing go. Man, he has let it go. Don't you think it's time for you to let it go? Man, if God could forgive you $1 million, could you not forgive yourself 20,000? Could you not forgive somebody else 20,000? You imagine what life would look like if we just forgave like we've been forgiven? And if I forgave people not because of them, but I forgave people because of God. Wow. That changed a lot of lives. I'll tell you one thing, it changed my life. Make me a better person. I wouldn't be around bitter all the time. I wouldn't be untrusting. I wouldn't be unloving. I wouldn't be so guarded. Maybe I could start to experience a healthier life. Maybe I could start to feel the love of friendship, the love of people. Maybe I could take my problems and my past and I could let God spin it and I could help people be better. Wow, what could happen if I could just forgive like I've been forgiven? It is possible. You just got to be willing to take the risk, and you got to be willing to accept it. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for this time together. God, thank you for your truth. God, thank you for your love and your mercy. God, thank you for Floor One and the people that are in this room we get to call family. God, be with us as we go to groups and help us to be just deeper in love with you, God. Just help us to chase after you. Help everything to be about you, because when it's about you, it doesn't get to be about anything else, and life just is easier. God, we love you and we thank you in your name. Amen.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
You excited?
I'm pumped.
All right. Welcome here to North Youth Media. Whether you're a student, parent, or youth motivator, our hope here is to reach students where they are, to give families an inside look to the series, and to help open dialogue with their students. Now, I'm Alex Perez, and you know who I have here, my special guest. Actually, he's not the guest. He's the guy in charge.
I'm on every week until we get someone else.
Yeah. So we have the youth pastor, Adam Myers. He's the father. He's the youth pastor and student motivator here. Awesome title. Wow. The Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost is
Holy
here,
Spirit.
man. And dropped your phone or something.
Dropped my phone.
Or maybe it was the devil. I don't know. One of the two.
Oh.
So we're in the final week of the series, Jesus' parable called The Storyteller. And to close, we want to help students realize that forgiveness is critical to their faith. So both in receiving it and offering it. And as difficult as it can be, they will never regret practicing forgiveness.
Yes.
So before we jump into it, speaking of jumping into it, diving into it, anything that was exciting that happened this weekend?
Hey, we baptized some students this weekend. Yes. Baptism Sunday was this weekend, and we actually baptized 8 people altogether, but 2 students, Colton, who we posted a video on him on our channel about his experience at snow camp getting saved.
Link in the description.
Yep. And then Ethan. And it was great. We had all the students come up to the worship center, and they lined the back wall, and it was awesome.
Yeah. That's a great moment to see. Even we had the 2 students there. Just their walk of life was different. Both of their paths were different to lead up to this point. Mm-hmm. So it was good to see where they started and now where they ended up. The baptism isn't the final destination, but it's a good show of where their mindset is and where their faith is, and how that's growing in them, which is amazing.
Yeah, to be able to watch both of their stories, they're so fresh coming out of camp.
Oh yeah.
Seeing Colton get saved, and then seeing Ethan get saved, and then seeing them take that step is big. And then for just us as a family, it's what it means to be the church, that we can keep each other accountable, and that's what baptism is. It's that profession, the saying, my heart belongs to Jesus, but I need some help. And so, yeah, it was just great. It's always good.
Definitely.
And I got wet because those are some big boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first hour you had all the small
I had little
guys.
kids. I didn't even get wet at all. I baptized Colton, man. I got splashed. I was dripping in water. It's good though.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah. And just to keep it lighthearted, I think they're going to get a little upset once they find out at summer camp they could have got baptized in the ocean.
Yeah, that is the problem we have with baptizing students during the year. Why don't you baptize more students? Because we baptize at the beach.
Yeah, and they hold out until then.
So they hold out.
Listen,
I would hold out too.
You don't have to hold out. You can show.
Yeah, we can maybe double dip you.
Yeah.
Get you here, and then we'll get you there.
Yeah. I like
double dip. Don't double dip the chip, but you can double dip the person in the back.
That's the only time I'm okay with allowing people to double dip.
That's right.
If you double dip in my dip, get out of here.
Get out.
Yeah.
Get out.
Get behind me, Satan.
I may not be able to forgive you if you did that.
Well, speaking of forgiveness, excuse me. Speaking of forgiveness, so let's jump into it with the questions, and that's exactly where we're at. So, what's the difference between forgiving and forgetting? So, forgive my tongue twisters there, but what's the difference between forgiving and forgetting?
Wow. Yeah, I think that's tough because I think a lot of people think they forgive and they don't.
Yeah.
Right? So I think they're really connected, forgiving and forgetting, because when you really forgive somebody, you have forgotten it. Right? And so I think that's the struggle. So someone will hurt you, or something will happen to you, and you say, well, I'm going to forgive him, and you did forgive him, but the reality is you didn't, because you're holding on to that.
Right.
And you're keeping it there. And so this is, forgiveness is one of those things that is really easy to talk about. I mean, well, forgive somebody. How hard is that?
Right.
To actually do it?
So
that's a whole other thing.
I think the moment you get to the forgetful point is I think to the point where it didn't really bother you that much. It wasn't, maybe someone said something that hurt you, and then now you forgive them, and you forgot about it. Oh, it's been a couple of years. Oh yeah, I don't even remember that. I think that the forgetful point is when it didn't really matter or bothered you as much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's some hurtful points that maybe someone said something and it'll just stay with you for years. So that's what makes it very hard to forget.
Mm-hmm.
So once you get to the point of forgiveness, you don't forget, because that's always in the back of your mind. You're like, I forgive you, but I still hold what you may say again.
That's true
to me.
too. That's a really good point. I think you're absolutely true. I think both sides work, and everybody handles things differently too. So that's really good. Mm-hmm.
So how can forgiveness be possible even when forgetting is not?
Well, I think you said it. I think your point was really great. It was it wasn't a counter to mine, but it was a good, different perspective. I think you're right. You can forgive somebody, but that may mean that your relationship with that person is going to change.
Yeah.
There might be trust issues. There just might not be a relationship at all, but it's okay. Like, we're called to love everybody. You should love somebody in the sense you should care for their soul. You should hope they have a relationship with Jesus, but there's just going to be some people that you're not going to be able to share life with. And especially if those people have hurt you. And there might be people that they're just in a season of their life where they're going to keep hurting you. Forgive them. Let them go. That's a part of not forgetting, right?
Yes.
But you can move on. So, yeah, that was really good. That was a good take on it.
Yeah, can you give it forgiving? Can you give forgiving different levels?
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple levels.
Yeah.
Or can you blanket everything under the same forgiveness?
I think there definitely is probably some multiple levels, and one of the things we talked about on Sunday is that forgiveness, it really isn't about the other person. It's not. Forgiveness is about you. So there's going to be some different levels that you're going to have to be comfortable with.
Yeah.
And depending on how bad you got hurt and what you're going through, there's steps in that.
Yeah.
And it's okay that there's steps, but the key is to make sure you're taking those steps. Take the steps forward, not the steps backwards.
Right.
Keep progressing towards
And
letting
I
it
think,
go.
yeah, I think us as adults, we've lived a little bit of life where we can kind of learn how those things play out. But if you're a student, and you hear this message in your mind, I'm thinking in your mind that you see everything all the same, but the forgiveness is set differently. Jesus did love everyone. He calls us to love everyone, even the sinners, even the murderers and everything. But the forgiveness of that level is different. Because someone who said something to you and came back and said, "I'm sorry,"
Yeah.
you forgive them, and then your relationship does change a little bit, but it continues. Someone who does something extremely bad to you or someone near you, that forgiveness is there, but it may take years before you get to that point.
Yeah, what you said about being at different stages, that's really good too, because it's just like anything in life, you learn as you experience things. So when you're a high school student or a middle school student, there's pain that you're going to feel, and it's the first time you've ever felt that kind of pain, so it just feels big. I used to kind of give high school students, middle school students a hard time when they would have a breakup, and I'm like, "Oh, that's so silly." But then,
Yeah.
I stopped doing it because if you've gone through that, and that's the first time you've gone through that, that's a really big deal for
Yeah,
you.
for them, yeah.
So that is your whole world. So I stopped giving them such a hard time because I was like, you know what, this is a big deal. And so you're going to experience things as a high school and middle school student, and then you'll experience things as an adult. So all of the things you experience give you reference. Just to say that there will be things that you're going to experience later, and you're going to be like, I can let that go. People are like, well, how can you be so okay with this? Well, I've been through some things.
Yeah.
I've been through worse than this, and I've gotten through it. God's gotten me through it. I will be okay getting through this.
Yeah.
That's how we grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's how, to come around and answer that question, I think that's how forgiveness can be possible even when forgetting is not.
Yes. So, let's put us on the other side. Has there ever been a time where you wish someone would forgiven you?
Yeah. I have a. It's kind of a fresh one, but there is somebody that just I had a friendship with for a long time, and then there was a change that happened in my life, and they couldn't understand that change. It was a change for the positive for me, but I wasn't able to have the same kind of relationship with them, and unfortunately, they're still pretty hurt about it. So I've reached out. I actually wrote them a letter apologizing and saying, hey, I'd like to try to reconcile this. Even though I do know that I did everything right in leaving that, because sometimes things just happen. Change is a good thing, but it still doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. So anyway, unfortunately, they're not there yet, but that's okay. I know they'll get there, and I hope they get there soon, because I do miss that relationship with that person. But it's okay, because where I'm at now is in the space I need to be. And I just believe that it's going to work out. But yeah, it's hard. Yeah. It's really hard.
So for me, I can't think of one right now at the moment, but if it comes up, I'll bring it back. We'll bring it back to this question. But, I try to live my life in a way where it does feel different, in the fact where I don't want to put myself in that situation where somebody wronged somebody, or I wronged somebody, then I have to get the forgiveness, because I think waiting for that is already painful enough. I don't want to fall into that point where I'm at this side of the window and they're not ready to forgive right away, or they forgave, but then I'm now in a different level of their life now. I'm less in their life because of that. I think it's hard to I live my life a different way, so I don't have to get to that point. So the only thing immediate that I could probably think of right now would be the immediate family that I'm with now, because I see them every day.
Yeah.
So I will either say something stupid to my wife, or say something crazy to my kids, and they're like, what is wrong with you? It's like, dang it, I said something stupid. I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. And then I now live my life a little bit differently because of that. But immediately with the people who I deal with at work, friends who I have here through the church, or friends outside of the church here, I try to live my life in a way where I'm always helping, so I don't hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's such a great thing, and that's the way we should be. And I think the other side of it too, and we talked about this on Sunday, is that if you're if you're living your faith the way that you're supposed to, and you're loving people like Jesus, you're gonna almost invite conflict into your life, and you're gonna have some things that's gonna happen where you're gonna hurt people, but it's for the right reasons, right? It's like it's a good hurt. It doesn't feel good to them, but I mean, you taking a stand, you choosing to live a different way, it will create conflict, and there are some people that aren't gonna follow along with that, and they're gonna have to make a decision on trying to forgive you for that, even though you're doing the right things. Right. So, that's why, again, forgiveness is about you. It's not about the people that have hurt you or whatever. And if there's somebody that you have hurt, whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, they're going to have to make a decision based upon them. And that's, but you hit it right. You want to live your life in a way that you're trying not to have those conflicts.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're going to come up.
Yeah, that's true. So, when it comes to forgiveness, why can it be helpful to be aware of the things you've been forgiven for?
Yeah, that's a big thing. We told the story in today's message was about this guy who basically owed $1 million, and he was forgiven the debt, and then somebody owed him $20,000, and he wouldn't forgive it. And listen, we've been forgiven a lot. When you think about how much God loves us and how much God's forgiven us, we've been forgiven a lot of $1 million debts. But there's a lot of us that are stuck on these $20,000 offenses that people have given us, and we forget that we were forgiven a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's a big deal to think about, what have I done? Where have I been? What has God forgiven me about? Wow, if God could forgive me for all that, surely I could forgive somebody for this. I could extend that. I mean, that was the tagline from the whole message today was forgive like you've been forgiven. Yeah. So it's a big deal to remember.
Talking about what I just was talking about a second ago, like I think that's what helps me to see people differently in that aspect, where if they do hurt me in a way where I have to forgive them, it becomes an easier feat to do that because of where I'm at and how I've been forgiven multiple times by Jesus or close family members or friends or whatever. I have to remember that I have been forgiven for the things that I've said, that I've done, and then now when someone has done something, I can now in turn forgive them. Obviously in different levels, but if it gets up to that, not to get too dark, but in the murderous aspect, I would definitely get to that point. But once I see the right time to do that, to release it, then it's that time. But
everybody's got a story, right? Everybody's got a story, and we all have stories. And goodness, if we were to be treated by God the way we deserve to be treated, we have given God every excuse to not love us.
Being extended grace is so huge, because if we get what we deserve, once we see what we deserve, we definitely don't want that. But we are given grace. We are given forgiveness. So here's what it is. I got a challenge for you. The challenge is to forgive. Now, while important for all of us as it is, it may not look the same for everybody. For some, it may be simple as a one-time decision. But for others, it actually may be a process that requires help from others, and then maybe years to complete. So this week, we want to encourage you guys to take the first step, or to take a small step, or to just take the next step into forgiveness in that process. And if you would, let us know how that went in the description below, and message us on our socials. We would love to hear what you have and share that. That'd be great. And then while you're there, if you guys don't mind, consider subscribing.
Yep.
We'd love to get connected with you guys. So, continuing on, what are some signals that we haven't forgiven someone?
I think one of the biggest signals is there's just some bitterness that's in you, and then that bitterness creates this negativity.
Yeah.
So negativity is a big sign that something's up. It's amazing how just a little bit of negativity can work itself into your heart and goodness, it can just change the way you look at everything. And it might just be because there's a little bit of unforgiveness in there.
Yeah, you change your mannerisms, you change your speech, you change the way you handle things. You could punch walls, you can hurt somebody because of that bitterness. You know, someone could walk up and say something that they think is nice, and then to you, that reminded you of whatever you were bitter about, and you take it out on them.
Yeah, yep. It's forgiveness just makes us ugly. Really, what it is, and it's just you have that moment where you're like, you know what, man, I'm putting a lot of ugly vibes out in this world. Everything you said just is ugly. I gotta stop being so ugly. Yeah.
So on the opposite side of that, what are some signs that we have forgiven someone?
I think there's peace. I really think that there's peace. There's you feel free. You don't feel that weight anymore. The things you were describing, right? The anger, the tension, the whatnot. You're just you can just breathe because it's just not a thing anymore.
Yeah. If I can get personal for a second, am I allowed to get personal?
You get anything you want. You got the mic.
Yeah. So I have lived most of my life without my father, and the only conversations and connections I had with him were, 2 phone calls in the middle of the night, because that's when he decided to call, and 2 promises, one for my birthday to get tennis shoes, and then I think one was for Christmas to get a Nintendo system. Never got either of them, but I held that for many years. I don't think I've ever out loud offered that forgiveness, but it has slowly turned into, or it has slowly shaped me into the way that I father and the way that I, that's part of why I hold that forgiveness a little bit different with other people. Maybe, I give them that chance, that grace, that different look at the way they handle their side of it, so that I can then in turn forgive them because of what they did to me for a long time. So.
Thanks for sharing that, because I know we've talked before about that with your father, and I mean that's definitely something that people are watching and listening, and a lot of our students struggle with one of their parents not being in their life, and then how do you process through that? Because especially in your situation, right, when you're young, when that happens, you're just trying to figure out life out, ready? And so what do you do when that gets put in there, and then how that affects you as an adult? It's big.
One of the things, positives that I can pull out of that, with the empty promises and the empty statements and all of those things, it has made me, I think, a better father myself. Multiple people have told me that, and I hold that to a high regard. And when I get told that, that reminds me of my dad, and then I think I give him a little bit more forgiveness each time that is said.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know you've heard that, and I've told you that before. You're an unbelievable father, not just to your 2 kids, but then you've become a father figure to so many students. Yeah. And that's life, right? You can either be bitter or better. Yeah. And they're both going to require the same amount of energy. So why not just be better?
Yeah, I think living a life that you can be excited about, no matter what is coming to you, is a whole lot better. Yeah. So when you pick the better side of things, I understand the bitterness of it, because I lived through it. I've been there, and it hangs with you, and it does change the way that you say things, do things. But once you choose the better side of things, you get to see life a little bit differently.
And that's what we talked about forgiveness, right? That's why forgiveness is about you, and you choosing to say, I'm not going to live in this prison anymore of rage and anger and bitterness, but I'm going to let God have it, and I'm going to be free, and I'm going to be better. And that's how you start to live.
Yeah. So just a quick plug for next week. Next week we have a really good topic. So stay tuned for that.
Yep. Yeah, you can go ahead and
go ahead and just
plug it. Yeah, we're talking about divorce next week. So it's a special one week message. And divorce is something that hits everybody. And the question we're trying to answer is when it comes to divorce, can there be peace? Can there be peace? That's a good question to ask. And you talk about forgiveness.
Yeah.
Man, that's a big one. We got a lot of students in the ministry affected by divorce. Just a lot of people affected by divorce.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's definitely something next week you want to tune in. You want to watch that message, listen to the podcast. It's going to have a different kind of vibe. And then if you've got somebody in your life that is struggling through it, man, share that with them. And hopefully it can be a blessing and a resource to help them find healing.
Definitely. All right, and that's time for us. We appreciate you guys sticking around and listening to the end of the podcast or end of the YouTube video. I want to thank you guys. Actually, if you are in YouTube land, thanks for watching. And if you're in podcast land, thanks for listening. Make sure to save us on your video or audio playlist. And also, if you hit that subscribe button, click the bell, turn on notifications, and then you'll get notifications of when these videos pop up or audios pop up. And don't forget to be social. Follow us. Say hello.
Hello.
Hey, you got it.
I did it.
All right.
It's my only job.
So whether you are a student, parent, or youth motivator,
Yes.
our hope is to reach students where they are, to give families an inside look into the series, and to help open dialogue with their students. This is North Youth Media.
Have a good week.
See ya.